Hi everybody and welcome to week 9 of the Tourism Management English class. Today we are going to be talking about car rental and motoring or driving, and we'll be looking at some information needed for car rental, and we'll look at some basic driving laws in some different countries. Just before we start, some announcements. At this point, I don't know for sure when in-class lectures are going to start. I have been told it will be week 10, but I don't know. This might still change. Another important thing is there's going to be an online makeup class. So originally the week 15 class was scheduled for a Saturday. It was going to be a makeup. I think for the D&H class that was going to be May 23rd. For some of the other classes it was later in, I think maybe in June. But we have been told not to do the Saturday classes, so that extra class will now be done online. This makeup class is available on the e-learning site now, so please check. Again, everyone, just please check your files before you upload them to the e-learning website. It only takes a minute. Just check that everything is correct before you upload them. Today's video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be speaking a lot more and giving you a lot more information today, and there will be less for you to do. There's still going to be 2 parts to your assignment, so again, when we get to them, you can pause the video. There's going to be a little bit of listening. So again, you can rewind the video at those parts if you want to listen again. For today's class, you will need your textbook and you will need some documents from the e-learning website. The assignment worksheet looks like this. We've got a conversation to complete. And then we've got a short part 2 about some driving laws. Also, you can download today's presentation on PDF files. So that is what we need for today. So let's get started. We're going to be talking about car rental and motoring. So the stages today, we're going to be looking at information required to rent a car. We're going to listen to an information officer talk to a visitor who's trying to rent a car. We're going to think about some ways that we should speak to a client or a guest or basically anybody in a formal situation. And then we'll be looking at some motoring laws, and we're going to look at the UK and the USA and see some differences there. And then you're going to try and talk about South Korea. Now, I think for some of you this lesson might be more difficult because you maybe don't know so much about driving. Some of you may have passed your test already and can drive quite easily. Others maybe know nothing about cars. So I think it was quite important today to kind of go through this lesson in the way thinking that nobody knows anything about cars. Now, I don't know much about cars either. I just drive my car. I don't even know what type it is, but anyway, there's some information that we should all know about cars. So when it comes to rental, there are some important vocabulary I think we should know. So There's certain vocabulary we need to know before being able to rent a car to a client. And this is something that you would do if you're working in a hotel, working in an airport, working in lots of different places. People need to rent a car. So it's very useful to know this vocabulary. Now, the first group of vocabulary we'll look at today is personal details. Now, this is not only about renting a car. We use this all the time. Things like checking into a hotel, booking a trip, booking a guided tour. So many things use this. But these other ones are very specific for renting a car. Car details, insurance, mileage allowance, and pick up and drop off or return. So it is important that we know these, and especially with pick up and drop off, there's two different things. We're looking at where and when. So the time and our location will be important there. So I want to go through each of these vocabulary groups and try to give you some useful vocabulary that you could use if you are renting a car to a client. So we'll start with the personal details. And if we look up in the corner, we can see this little card here. This looks fairly common. Now, I rent cars very often. Every summer I go to the UK with my son and I rent a car usually for about 1 week, and we go on a short road trip around the country. And this is the type of form that I have filled in before. Or somebody has asked me the questions and they have filled it in. So, common information needed with personal details, well, Mr., Mrs., Miss, or Ms. Your title. So obviously I'm a man, I'm an adult, I would be Mr. This is a little bit more difficult. Usually we would use Mrs. if it is a woman that we know is married. Miss we would use if it's a woman that we know is single, she's not married. And Ms. is what we would use if we don't know. We don't know if this person is married or unmarried, we can use Ms. Also, some women prefer to be addressed with Ms. They don't like using Miss or Mrs. So these are the four kind of titles that we would be writing in our information card. Then we would have the first name of the client. Now this is something that can cause some confusion, especially with Korean people, because in Korea your first name is your last name and your last name is your first name. So then the names are reversed in English and Korean. So what we would call the first name would be your given name, the name that your parents named you. So my first name is James. Sarah would be a first name. Dongchal, Subin, Jisan, Hesu. They would be your first names. Then we would have the family name. Now this is quite often called last name or surname as well. You will see this, and this is your family name. So in English, the family name is the last name. So my last name is Payton. So James Payton. But in Korean, your family name, your last name will come first. Bak or Lee or Kim, all of those kinds of names. So it's important that we don't get confused with first name and last name when we're filling in a client's personal details. We may also need their credit card details, their credit card number, expiry date, and the CVC number. That's just the 3 digits on the back of the credit card. It's like a security code. Passport number, especially if you are in a foreign country, you need to show your passport when you're renting a car. This is usually shown in the personal details page of your passport. And driving license. If you're in Korea and you're renting a car in Korea, you can show your Korean license. But if you are abroad, you will need to show an international driving license. So this is what I do every year. I go to my local district office and get an international driving license, and that allows me to drive when I go to the UK. I don't have a UK driving license. I actually learned to drive in Korea. So I only have a Korean driving license. So again, very important vocabulary for personal details. The next thing we need to know about is some details about the cars. And with rental cars, they're usually split into classes. Now here are some examples. This is Enterprise Rent-A-Car. It's a really big company around the world. And here's Jeju Car Rental Service. We'll notice the first thing that we see here is the class of car. And this has usually got to do with the size or the quality of the car. So we've got things like standard, minivan, luxury, compact, intermediate. In the Jeju one, they've got just 4 here: economy, compact, standard sedan, minivan. So these classes are quite important. And then what's also important is the make of the car and the model of the car. So some people, when they're renting a car, they don't want to drive certain makes of cars. Maybe they don't like Ford cars, or they don't like Nissan or whatever. So I've just made up a little chart here. I've chosen 5 classes. I chose economy, compact, standard, SUV and luxury. And I've given you some examples of make and models. So Kia Morning is an economy car, very kind of small car. I hired one of these when I was in Jeju before. Chevrolet Spark, nice little small car. Nissan Micra is another economy or compact type thing. So compact cars are next, Compact cars, where have we got here? This one's a Hyundai Avante. So maybe things like Kia K3, Nissan Versa, Volkswagen Polo. Those are examples. So slightly bigger than the economy cars, but not as big as some of the other ones. We've got some example of standards. Hyundai Sonata. My wife has one of these. Ford Focus, very popular in the UK and Europe. Volkswagen Passat. Do we have one here? No. But yeah, these are a little bit bigger again. Then we have our sports utility vehicles. A good example would be the Hyundai Santa Fe, or something like this, the Jeep Grand Cherokee. These are SUVs. And then we have our luxury cars, really expensive, high quality, things like a Mercedes-Benz E350, BMW M5, or the Genesis G90. They're all very high quality cars. Up here we've got a Cadillac CTS. So it's important that we know about these different classes and the types of cars that are in each of these classes. Now the next thing we need to know about is insurance. In most countries it is illegal to drive a car without insurance. So Korea is the case. If you're driving a car with no insurance and the police catch you, you could go to prison, or you could get a big fine and have to pay a lot of money. So when you rent a car, most rental cars will have a basic insurance included in the price. However, that won't That won't cover you for a lot of accidents or other problems that you might have. So there are other types of insurance. Now there's lots of types of specific insurance, but the three main categories I think are basic, limited insurance and full insurance. Now this picture here just gives us some examples. Now they use different names: basic, medium, premium, but it's the same: basic, limited, full insurance. And it shows you here theft protection. Yep, all of them have this. Collision and damage protection. Yep, so if you have a small crash. Personal accident. So this would be things like hospital fees and things that happen because of the accident. So your basic insurance, no, you would have to pay, but these ones, yes. Windscreen lights and tire protection. So if your tire is flat or you crack a windscreen, you don't need to pay here, but you would need to pay with the basic. And personal belongings, things inside the car. If you leave a bag in the car and somebody steals that bag, you're not covered. You're not covered, but you are here. But you will notice for the limited and the premium or full insurance, you would pay extra money. So it's important when renting a car to a client that we understand the types of insurance and what kind of insurance they need and how much that will cost. The next thing is a mileage allowance. Now, a mileage allowance is also known as a mileage cap, and the mileage a rental car may be driven on a single day without additional charge. So this is very common when I rent a car in the UK. I'm allowed 100 miles for one day. So 1 mile is about 1.6 kilometers, so that would be 160 kilometers for one day. If I drive more than that, I would have to pay some extra money. So there's usually two options. Limited mileage, you would get like 100 kilometers a day, or maybe 75 or 250 kilometers per day. And if you go over the allowed mileage, you pay extra money. So in these examples, we've got the Santa Fe 175 miles. We've got the Ford Focus 300 miles, the Mirage 375 miles. But you can also get unlimited mileage, and this means there's no limit. You can drive as far as you like, but you will have to pay some extra money when you hire the car. So that is mileage allowance. The last thing is pick up and drop off, and this is where and when you will collect the car and return the car. So pick up is where and when you collect, drop off or return is where and when you will return the car. So here usually we will have location, the date and the time. So let's say that you have flown into Incheon Airport and you want to collect your car from there. Well, there you go. The location, Incheon International Airport. The date, Monday, May 18th. And I'm picking it up at 10 a.m. Usually people will drop off the car at the same location, but sometimes we could do it at a different location. So let's say after there I've got a flight to Japan and the flight leaves from Gimpo, so I want to drop my car off at Gimpo Airport, and again I would have the date Saturday, May 23rd and at 5 p.m. So this information is very important because it will affect the price that is given to the client for the car, but also it tells us exactly where and when the car will be collected. So this language I think is really useful when it comes to speaking to a client about renting a car. So what we're going to do, if we look on page 82 of the textbook, you will see an information card, and it's got some personal details, name, we've got our title, first name, family name. We've got the car required, group and make. Group is the same as class. We've got full insurance required, yes or no. Unlimited mileage, yes or no. Then we've got the time and the day and the month and the year. So that's when we start and then when we return. Time, day, month, year. And then we've got our pickup location, return location. So we're going to listen to a conversation, and we're going to just listen first time, and then I'm going to listen again and fill in the information while we are doing it. So let's listen.
Lesson 38. Car rental. A. Listen to a conversation at a car rental desk.
Good evening.
Good evening, madam. How can I help you?
Well, I want to rent a car. Do you have any available?
Yes, certainly. We've got most groups available now.
Oh, good. Can I have one then?
Of course, but I've got to take your details first.
Oh, sure.
Now, first of all, your name.
My name's Miss Mary Robinson. That's Robinson.
And what kind of car would you like?
Well, just a small one. It's just for me.
Group A. We've got a Nissan Micra or an Opel Corsa. Any preference?
Oh, a Nissan.
And will you be requiring full insurance?
Yes.
Good. Do you want unlimited mileage, or do you want to pay for each kilometre you travel?
Oh, no, unlimited mileage.
And when do you want the car from?
Well, from tomorrow for 7 days. Can I pick it up at 9 a.m?
Yes, certainly. So that's 9 o'clock on the 14th of May. Returning the car here?
Yes, at the same time, on the 21st of May.
Fine. So all I need to do now is to take your driving licence details and take an imprint of your credit card.
All right, here you are.
Okay, so that was a kind of normal type of conversation. Now, something you should have noticed here was some of the language is a little bit different. So they used group instead of class, and instead of using compact standard, they used a letter. And that's something that can be quite common as well. A would be like a compact car, or economy, sorry. B would be compact, and so on. So sometimes there's different vocabulary used, but it's all kind of got the same meaning. So we're going to listen again, and I'm going to stop it and fill in the information while we're doing this. So we'll listen again.
Lesson 38. Car rental. A. Listen to a conversation at a car rental desk.
Good evening.
Good evening, madam. How can I help you?
Well, I want to rent a car. Do you have any available?
Yes, certainly. We've got most groups available now.
Oh, good. Can I have one then?
Of course, but I've got to take your details first.
Oh, sure.
Now, first of all, your name.
My name's Miss Mary Robinson.
Okay, so the title should have been Ms. And Mary is the first name. Robinson is the family name.
That's Robinson.
And what kind of car would you like?
Well, just a small one. It's just for me.
Group A. We've got a Nissan Micra or an Opel Corsa. Any preference?
Oh, a Nissan.
Okay, so the car required, Group A, and the make was a Nissan, and the model was Micra, so Nissan Micra.
And will you be requiring full insurance?
Yes.
Full insurance required? Yes.
Good. Do you want unlimited mileage, or do you want to pay for each kilometre you travel?
Oh, no, unlimited mileage.
Okay, she wants unlimited mileage, so unlimited mileage, yes.
And when do you want the car from?
Well, from tomorrow for 7 days. Can I pick it up at 9 a.m?
Yes, certainly. So that's 9 o'clock on the 14th of May. Returning the car here?
Yes.
Okay, so 9 o'clock on the 14th of May. The year, well, this year, because it was tomorrow. They didn't tell us the exact date, but yeah.
At the same time, on the 21st of May.
Fine. So all I need to do now is to take...
Okay, so our time was the same, and oh, sorry, I couldn't hear. What was the date?
the car here?
Yes, at the same time, on the 21st of May.
Fine. So all I need to do now is to take your driving license details and...
21st of May, and here, and the pickup location, they didn't give the actual name, but it was just here at the office that they were in. So here. So after all that, we've got the details. Ms. Mary Robinson, Group A, Nissan Micra, full insurance required, yes. Unlimited mileage, yes. From 9 a.m. on the 14th of May to 9 a.m. on the 21st of May. Pickup location here, return location here. So this conversation I think is quite useful to show what a normal car rental conversation is like. Now it usually takes a good bit longer than this. I've hired many cars, and sometimes it doesn't go very smoothly, especially when it comes to the credit card and things like that. But this is the kind of information you will be required to ask. Now we should have noticed the car rental clerk was really polite. He didn't ask her, "What do you want?" He asked, "How may I help you?" at the beginning. His tone of voice and the language he used was very polite, or what we would say is formal. So to get information from a client, it is important to be able to ask the correct questions, and dealing with clients is seen as a formal business situation. So clerks are expected to use formal English. So I've got some examples here. So on the left hand side we have casual or just everyday English, the kind of English we would maybe use in class, or you would use with your friends, or just meeting people in a social way. So casual language, hello or hi, what's your name, what do you want, what kind of car do you want, bye or see you later. They're kind of casual. But when we're dealing with a client or a visitor or a guest at a hotel, we don't really want to be using casual English. We want to be using much more formal English. So rather than saying hello or hi, we could say good morning or good afternoon or good evening or welcome to our place or whatever. But it can't just be hi or hello. Rather than asking what's your name, it's a little bit too direct, so may I have your name please? Rather than what do you want, how may I help you? What kind of car do you want? What kind of car would you like? So when we're making formal questions, quite often want is not used. So rather than do you want, would you like? So this can be used in a lot of occasions. In a hotel, do you want breakfast? No. Would you like breakfast? Again, do you want a compact car? No. Would you like a compact car? So would you like is very commonly used when we're being extra polite or formal. So again, rather than saying bye or see you later, we might say have a nice day or I look forward to seeing you again. It's much more polite and much more formal, and in a business situation, clients and guests really appreciate the use of formal language. So this is going to be quite important for our next part. So in this next part, we're going to see a conversation, and there's a conversation between a clerk and a client. And what we can see is some information missing. So what we would need to do is look at the clerk and think about, first of all, is it a question they're asking, or are they answering a question? Secondly, what kind of language should we use? Remember, it needs to be formal. So the clerk starts here. Good morning, how can I help you? So not what do you want, how can I help you? Much more polite. The client says, good morning, can I arrange car rental here? So it's a question. We would have to give an answer, but also we need to look at what the client says next. For 3 days, starting tomorrow morning. So here the clerk must answer this question, then they must be asking another question. So I'll give you an example here. The clerk, after this, good morning, can I arrange car rental here? Certainly. Okay, maybe when would you like to rent the car? Or maybe how long would you like to rent the car? We know that's they can be the questions because we've got this for 3 days starting tomorrow morning. So maybe the question is how long or when. So that's what we need to do for the other parts. Look what comes before and what comes after, and then we have to try and figure out what would come in between. So sometimes it will be questions, sometimes you will be answering the questions. Sometimes you will answer a question and then ask another question. So this is a good time, everybody, to pause the video, look in your assignment worksheet and try to complete the conversation. Okay, so that's us finished with the car rental part of the class. I think in there's a lot of useful language, especially with the types of dialogue that you would have with the client. So for the rest of the class today, we're going to go on and talk about motoring or driving in general. So before we do this, there's some vocabulary I think we should know. So you're going to be doing an exercise later and it's saying mph. Well, this means miles per hour. Now, the UK and US are very strange countries. They're probably two of the only countries in the world that don't use kilometers for distance. They use miles instead. I don't know why, but they do. So I think it's important to know what a mile is. So 1 mile will equal 1.6 kilometers. So if somebody is going 70 miles per hour, that would be the same as 112 kilometers per hour. And 30 miles per hour would be the same as 48 kilometers per hour. So in Korea, everything, all of the speeds in your car are given in kilometers per hour. All of the distances are given in kilometers. If you're in the UK or the US, the distance will be in miles, speed will be in miles per hour. So that's going to be useful when we do the next listening part. You're going to hear the word overtake. Now, overtake means to go past another car. If you look at the picture, on the top right of the screen, you can see the green car wants to go past the truck, so it will go out, and past the truck it will overtake the truck. You're also going to need to know about roundabouts. Now, roundabouts are things that are used to slow traffic down. There's quite a few of these in Korea. I think there's a really big one at Shincheon. Is that right? Shincheon? Shincheon Rotori. Yeah. So these roundabouts, also some of the newer towns in Korea have a lot of these. They're used to keep the traffic flowing and slow it down in certain areas. And we're also going to need to know the word lane. So a lane is one part of the road. So this road down here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 lanes on the one road. This road over here has 1, 2 lanes. So this vocabulary is going to be useful for the next thing we're going to do today. So when driving in a foreign country, it is important to understand that some driving laws may be different from your country. So we're going to listen to an American and a British person talk about their experiences of driving in each other's countries. So we're just going to listen first and then try to think about some of these driving laws.
Lesson 39. Motoring. A2. Listen to a British person talking about driving in the USA and an American talking about driving in Britain.
Richard, have you driven anywhere else apart from your own country?
Yep, I've actually driven abroad in the States. I've been there a couple of times, and both times I hired a car.
And did anything surprise you about driving there?
I think what surprised me about driving in the States was how well they drove, actually. Much better than over here. Far more polite.
Was it difficult to get used to?
Yeah, it was in a way. The first problem, of course, you drive on the other side of the road. That's always a bit of a headache to begin with. And also odd things like you can turn right at a red traffic light if nothing's coming the other way. You can just turn right, and like you'd forget that, and you'd behind you, getting you to move on. And also on the freeways over there, you can overtake on either side. And also they have special lanes for people with more than 2 people in the car to encourage sharing cars. And above there's a sign saying that if you're in this lane, anybody can report you if you haven't got enough passengers. Funnily enough, the speed limit was something I thought I was going to have trouble with, because my brother warned me. He said, look, you've got to keep to the speed limit. If you don't, you'll be booked. And so I went out the first day, crawling along at the speed limit, and all these cars are going zow, 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 right past me.
Monica, have you driven anywhere else apart from your own country?
I've been driving in the UK and England. I drove quite a bit there, actually, and it was interesting. The amazing thing about driving in England is that first of all, you're on the other side of the road, and you have to get used to not only being on the other side of the road, but the steering wheel being on the other side of the road. And I'm left-handed and everything, and so it made it very awkward at first, but then I got used to it. I think the thing that really astounded me, though, were roundabouts. Roundabouts, just completely, I didn't understand them at all.
What surprised you about driving there?
Well, in England, drivers actually stop at zebra crossings to let pedestrians go across. They do stop, which is not like it is in America. I mean, you can only cross on the lights and things like that, and often that's ignored. But in England, the drivers really do stop, which I think is civilized. One law that I wasn't aware of, but is that in England they actually wear seatbelts not only in the front but in the back seats. So you always see people belted in the back as well.
What are the speed limits there?
In the built-up areas of town situations, the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. And on the motorways, it's 70 miles an hour, but everybody seems to do about 80 actually.
Okay, so very, very detailed explanations about driving laws in each of the countries. Now, don't worry so much if you didn't understand everything in the conversations. These people were speaking very, very naturally, so sometimes it was a little bit quick and sometimes not so clear, but you should be able to hear the main information. So we've got the UK and we had the US. Now, we've got some different driving rules, and some of them are UK, some of them are US. So they drive on the left, they drive on the right. Now, I didn't actually hear this during the conversation. Both people just said they drive on the other side. So this is something that wasn't clearly explained, I don't think, in the listening. But here, well, in the US, it's the same as Korea. They drive on the right. In the UK, it's the same as Hong Kong and Japan and some other countries. They drive on the left. The next one, drivers stop at pedestrian crossings to let people cross. That was the UK. Everyone in the car must wear a seatbelt. That is the UK. Most drivers seem to ignore the speed limits. Well, I think this was kind of both, because the British man was saying people kind of go fast, but this woman said that they also go over the speed limit in the UK, so this could be both. The speed limit is 30 miles per hour in towns, that was the UK. The speed limit is 70 miles per hour on motorways and highways, that was also the UK. There are a lot of roundabouts, that was the UK. There are special lanes for cars carrying passengers. I think this is sometimes called the carpool lane, and that is in the USA. You can overtake on the inside. That was also the USA. You're not allowed to do that in the UK. You can turn right at a red traffic light. That was also the UK. So if you're wanting to listen to this again, rewind the video. I've put all of the answers here, so they're using, by the way, Britain is just another name for the UK. Some people call it the UK, some people call it Britain, some people would call it Great Britain, but anyway, some different names. So those were our answers. If you want to listen again and check them again, please rewind the video and listen again. But these answers, I think, sentences are going to be useful for you for the final assignment you're going to do today. So use the information provided in the previous slide to give some information about the driving laws in South Korea. So I would like you to write 5 driving laws in your assignment worksheet. You can see this here. So just like we had in the previous slide here, it's nice simple sentences explaining the laws. You will do the same for South Korea. So this is a good time to pause the video and complete your assignment worksheet. Okay, let's quickly review the things we've learned today. Units 38 and 39 about car rental and motoring. Now there are some other activities in the textbook. If you want to do them on your own time, you can. There's quite a lot of reading in these units, so if that's something you want to do, that's great, and if you've got any questions you can ask me. But the main things from today were the information required to rent a car, listening to the conversation, the types of questions when we are talking to visitors or to clients, how to speak to a client using formal language, very important. And then we looked at some motoring laws. So everyone, please remember to upload your assignment files to the e-learning website. Next week, we are going to be looking at units 41 to 42, and this is dealing with problems and complaints. Please remember to check the e-learning site for the makeup lesson. And we don't know yet, but hopefully I will see you in the class next week. But as I said at the beginning, I don't know for sure if that's going to be happening. Okay, everyone, thank you for listening today, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.